In our first demonstration, we'll look at ADDM and real-time ADDM in Oracle Database 12c. To start, we're on my target system, Agent 1. This is my machine that's running Oracle Database 12c. The service name is psite. And we're looking obviously at Oracle SQL Developer. I've done some artificial load on my server. Specifically, I have two users, Otto and Carol. And let me scroll up to show you what I've done. I've created a simple table with an index and a sequence where the sequence starts with 1 and increments with 1. I've granted all privileges on the table to my other user, Carol. And then we have an anonymous PLSQL block that simply does a for loop. It inserts values up to a certain number into the table. So it's generating some load, some minor load. Now, what I've done also, in addition to that, is I have both of these sessions trying to do the same thing. It looks like the task's already completed. But that obviously would have created some contention in the database, right? So why don't we investigate that using ADDM? We're now on our other Oracle server, Cloud One, and this is my OMS, my Oracle Management Server. Let me bring up my Firefox browser. I'll probably have to re-log into Cloud Control. I'll go ahead and log in as sysman. Asks me for my database login. I have a saved credential here, sys as sysdba. I'll log in. From OEM Cloud Control, I'll open Targets and filter my target list just to show my database targets. I'll select my psite.local domain instance. And you notice here that in our active sessions, we see a major spike that took place, let's see, according to my clock, around 50 minutes ago, and you notice that it's happening again here. Well, actually, under the hood, I have in fact restarted those PLSQL blocks, so I'm adding a whole bunch more information to the database, so that certainly is going to boost. By the way, these charts are mostly interactive, and you do have to have the Adobe Flash Player plugin enabled in your web browser in order to see any of the pretty pictures. So if you noticed that you weren't seeing anything, why, that's exactly why. In performance, the main go-to spot is Performance Home, but I just briefly want to come down to AWR to show you the different options here. AWR Administration, of course, is where we can set our retention interval, our snapshot interval, the collection level initialization parameter. You can see at a glance the snapshots that have been created, any baselines that have been created. You can run an AWR report interactively and also a compare periods report. Compare periods is a new feature in Oracle Database 12c, and this is where you can take, for instance, a baseline that you've created in the past, and you notice that these little magnifying glasses, if you click one, will allow you to browse the repository. For instance, I've created a test baseline called Test Baseline 1. I can select that. And by the way, I'll show you how to do an ADDM baseline in just a second. And then you can compare it to another baseline, or perhaps you can take a snapshot interval. And those snapshots have subsequent numbers, right? Looks like as of this recording, I have 72. So I can start, for instance, let's say at 67, and I'll select that. And I can just type end snapshot 72 and then generate that overlay report. This is an excellent way to compare, for instance, how your system might have been running a month ago when things were cool before you did a particular upgrade or schema change, to how things are running right now, which may not be as well. All right, here we are. Now, the report is another issue, isn't it? It's one thing to know how to generate a report, and it's another how to interpret the findings. That's where we really begin to earn our money as Oracle database developers or database administrators. Now, if we scroll down a little bit, we see Save to File. It's really cool that you can always pull off these reports, sometimes in more than one format. This is showing a diff report in HTML format. And that's cool, of course, because you can then take that HTML file and incorporate it in a presentation to your boss, or if you're doing a code review or a work team meeting, you can introduce that as part of your findings. But as we go through here, you just see tables of information with lots of numbers comparing initialization parameter values, DB times, CPU time averages. Again, you're not seeing anything magical with my numbers necessarily because my system is just a test system that's extremely quiet, but it's extremely detailed, as you can see here. There's this report detail section where you can just jump to a specific area in the report if you want to. Excellent stuff here. Let's come back to performance, see if we've missed anything under AWR. We can get right to the compare period options right here to do a compare, to look up reports that we've created. If we go to AWR report, this allows us to just run a single report based on either a baseline or a snapshot. The real-time ADDM is right down here, halfway down the performance menu. We're first asked for DB host credentials on my psite database. Let's see if I can get in here. I actually have named credentials here, so let me select those, ones that I've saved previously. So let's verify that. Yep, click submit. And real-time ADM relies upon both ADDM, obviously, but also active session history, because you're able to tap into the database as it exists right now. Remember, I mentioned that ADDM kicks off automatically under a number of predefined conditions, or if you can get to this screen, you can do a start to start an analysis ad hoc. And you see, once you do that, it's trying a normal connection, which it's able to get into right now because my system's not hung, but there's also a diagnostic connection that's possible that's a backdoor, in a sense, to the system. And we have an interactive chart. It's pretty cool looking at these. Now, I'm colorblind, so the color changes don't really help me so much, but it's showing us top activity, and not that it matters necessarily, but whenever you see references to top, you can rest assured that this is active session history, or ASH analytics data. Remember, ADDM is historical, based on snapshots. ASH is when you're looking at live data right now. And again, it's cool that you can go to where the peaks are and see, okay, there's a problem there potentially. Let's see, whatever color this is, I can't even tell. Let's see. Configuration is causing me some problems, it looks like. And we can see our findings down at the bottom just by going from tab to tab and seeing our activity. Again, you can hover your mouse over the key or the graph itself, and then we can see broken down by SQL statement ID, the amount of activity, the user session, and the amount of activity. And the fact that there's no problem findings is consistent with the fact that other than fairly high load, there's really nothing problematic as such going on here. Before we end this first demo, I promised you that I would show you how to create a baseline if you wanted to. If we go back to the Performance AWR Administration screen, which we're seeing right now, the way I do it is under Manage Snapshots and Baselines, just hover over your Baselines link, and then we can do Create. Single is the most common. Repeating is where you can generate a schedule to create these. I'm just going to create one. Give it a name. Call it Test Baseline 2, right? I'm not feeling particularly imaginative. Snapshot range is the default baseline interval, and we see here an active sessions list of the last hour on my system. Now we can jog back here, notice these controllers, and you can go forward to an extent. And the idea here is wherever there's been a snapshot, depending upon your configured interval, I have mine every 10 minutes as opposed to every hour. I could create my snapshot to start here. It's my period start time will be here. Let me verify that, 8:39, yep. My period end time will be, let's say, right here. You can also do a time range if you want as well, and it'll pick up any snapshots in between. Let's click Finish, and we've got ourselves a new static baseline. And you notice you can manage those easily enough by selecting them from the list and doing Edit, View, or Delete. You can also schedule different kinds of jobs depending upon what you want to do. If you want to refresh your statistics, etc.